Okay, and with me, my long returning guest. Introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Bree. I've been here a few times before. You probably know me from such hits as we talked about crabs and we talked about bees. What else have we talked about? We talked about
Spiders,
spiders. Yeah. And today
wings.
we're actually extending outside of arthropoda. So it's an oh, you know what? I don't got my stuff all lit up like I'm supposed to. Hold on just a second. There we go. There we
Unprofessional.
go. What's
Unprofessional.
going on behind me? Well, I didn't have myself up on the screen. I want to say hi to Eddie in the side chat. Hello, Eddie. But we're not leaving protostoma though. I'll tell you that. We're staying right in the middle of protostoma. So one hole is how these guys start out. But
we're going off a different. We're going off a different branch.
Yes, a mollusk branch.
But first, you want to talk about some others about certain types of them. You said or videos to share. You want to do a slideshow first?
Well, no, that's more for the end. Let's go through the phylogeny slides first. Let's fill up on our knowledge. If you want to pull it up, do you got the one with the updates that I made on it?
Yes.
Excellent.
Let me get
Hey. Slugs are not bugs. Well, unless you're very, very loosey-goosey with the term bug anyway, because most bugs are arthropods, or arthropoda, which some people mix up and say anthropods, which means it means to have feet like a man is what anthropods mean. So bugs are not anthropods, they're arthropods. 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 Now, slugs, as you'll notice, they don't have a lot of the features that arthropods have, but they do share certain characteristics with arthropods. And as we look up their phylogeny, you got to pull it up, or do I need to pull it up? I can pull it up if you don't.
It takes a minute to load.
Oh, okay, no worries. But yeah, but if you look at a creature that sort of bridges the gap between arthropods and gastropods, you look at like something like a water bear or a velvet worm, you can kind of see where some of the characteristics they share in common, especially when you compare insect larvae and how they're pseudopods or their feet-like appendages that aren't actually feet.
Well, I do know developed. Well, I do know they both get their mouths first, like us.
Yeah, we come ass first. They go mouth first. So we flip it around. All right. So let's pull up this first slide here. It's got, of course, this is kind of, I don't want to say it's archaic, but it says protist, and we're going to take that term with
I think you get the power to control it now. I think I give you the power to control the slides.
Okay. Is it going? Oh, there we go. Okay. So it'll just, all right. So yeah, so you got your ancestral protist here, which protist isn't a term we really use anymore, right? But for this slide, we're not looking back that far anyway, so it's not going to really have any kind of impact on what we're looking at here for the phylogeny of these organisms. So where we are is we're down in bilateria, which is not to be confused with these suckers right here, who are what's the word for it? Radial. Yeah, radial, where it's in a circle around the middle. But bilateral means it's split right down the two halves, and they should be relatively symmetrical. Mine aren't though. One of my eyes is actually lower than the other, and I don't know if it's noticeable or not, but yeah, but we're supposed to be. I'm not perfectly symmetrical, but we're not all symmetrical. I mean, as you age, your body changes in different ways too. But this is starting off with the very basics here, bilateral. Now we're down here, deuterostome, as Vandalia was clarifying. We start out with just a single hole, which we use as our anus, whereas these fellas up here on this branch develop with two holes immediately. They have a mouth and an anus. So in this group right here, Ecdysozoa, ecdysozoa. I'm going to trip over my own tongue tonight. Some of these words are like a mouthful, but this down here kind of splits this stuff up a little bit more concisely, but it doesn't label the branches leading out. But the main thing we need to know is that mollusks come off this branch right here with the worms and the crabs and all that good stuff, which is this branch here. And then that's down below here. And then, oh, this one might be, yeah. Okay, so it's just another diagram showing the divide between these two groups. You got your protostomes up here, arthropods, nematodes, mollusks, annelids. Annelids are worms. They're closest related organisms to mollusks, and mollusks also include a lot of other fun creatures like octopuses and squids and other cephalopods. Now, we're going to follow down a different branch. We may come back and have to do another episode on cephalopods, though. They're freaking amazing, right?
Oh, yeah.
Today, and it's so weird that people think that octopuses aren't related to other life on Earth. They're related to snails. The snail in your garden is closely related to the octopus. So,
as you can see, from the far left side, this we talked about last time. That small little branch there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you got a bivalvia, which is like clams and oysters, and you got Scaphopoda, which different organisms that live under there's a few different groups in Scaphopoda, and then you got Cephalopoda, which is where we find our squids, and then of course we are into gastropods, but we're going down a very special branch of gastropods. So we're going to continue on and see what we have here on the next slide. Okay, so we're going to be looking at land slugs or land snails, which are, I don't know, like the common name for them is, shoot, I lost my spot. Just a second here. I guess I can't pull that up.
No,
you're all right. I'll get it. Just a second. I just want to make sure I have the stuff up I need. I might have closed it on my own. I think I did. There we go. But we need to be more specific than gastropoda. Come on. Do you know there's semi-slugs too? Isn't that cool? Like between snails and slugs, they have like a partial shell. It's kind of weird.
For the longest time, I thought snails were just slugs that have a home.
A homeless slug. Yeah. Stylomatophora is the group I guess we're looking at. There was an older name for it, but I can't seem to find it that was like Protus, like the old timey name for it. But we'll go with that. But we're going down that branch, right? And everything on here is going to be down that branch, and these are just a variety of different freshwater and well, mostly terrestrial, just some freshwater, very few freshwater snails, but some are in this order.
Yeah.
Now,
is there saltwater snails or slugs?
There are definitely saltwater snails and slugs. There are some huge saltwater snails and slugs, and some beautiful saltwater snails slugs called they call them sea snails, but they're called nudibranchs, and they can be all sorts of beautiful, vibrant colors, and some of them are very poisonous.
Sorry, I gotta make a joke and things. I guess salt didn't kill all slugs then.
Nope, it didn't. Now, the sea slugs and sea snails have gills, and then land snails and land slugs have lungs, or they're kind of lungs. We'll get to that in just a second, but
Okay.
we're going to break down the phylogeny first. So, you see different shell formations here, but you got an out group here that's, I believe these are extinct, the ones in the out group, the Siphonorhoidae. Man, these names are a mouthful. I practice my insect names, but not my snail names. Oh goodness. Is it the same slide? Yeah, so here's a few common species of snails that you might see, or maybe some uncommon species of snail too. This guy with the long narrow shell there is not necessarily something I've ever seen in the wild. I've only ever seen it like aquariums and exhibits and stuff. Most snails I see look like the round snail, the garlic snail, and the brown lip snail. That'd be really cool to see some of these patterns though in the wild. But let's get into
a strawberry snail.
Let's get into what's going on, because those shells aren't just a house that they found and pulled over themselves like a hermit crab, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of hermit crabs, that's what they usually use as a snail shell. And how'd you not know that there were sea snails if you grew up with SpongeBob? I guess you didn't really grow up with SpongeBob. You were a little bit older when SpongeBob came out.
I was 19 when it premiered.
Yeah. Me and you were about the same age. My kids were more into SpongeBob than I was. But I do like SpongeBob. Gary's great. But you see on a snail, they have a lot of the same parts that we have. You got a lung, a digestive gland, a liver, gonads, a vagina, a penis.
But no vertebrate.
Yeah, they have both. So they got a mouth and eyes and tentacles just like us.
Wait, you have tentacles?
You don't have tentacles?
Well, I haven't looked. I haven't really looked at closely.
You got to look close. But the lungs. I mean, it's kind of like a lung, but it's almost like a spiracle. Like insects have going down their length of their body, and a spiracle is also used for respiration, and basically what it is it brings the oxygen right into the bloodstream instead of having to go through lungs. I don't call it a lung, but it's not. I mean, it's not really a lung. It's a pneumostome is the proper term for it, which you can see right here, where it's pointed out on this one, that you can see very, very well. Now, I do want to back up real quick to this one. I just wanted to show that real quick because it doesn't demonstrate that well on the snail, but a snail will usually have that up under its shell, so you can't even see it, the pneumostome. But snails are better protected from things like dehydration because that contains their moisture within, whereas slugs have to basically take a retreat every time that they start to get dried out. And yes, Stylomatophora have two retractable tentacles, that they use to help in feeding and in navigation. They have a single foot. All gastropods have a single large foot that doesn't move like our foot and take steps, but does this wiggle motion and lays down. What you can see here is got these saliva glands that'll lay down the nice. You see this. You can start to see the trails like when you go out early in the morning, where all the snails have been all night crawling all over, glistening little trails. That helps make sure that they don't. I know it seems like they're losing a lot, but it actually makes sure that they don't lose moisture because they lay down that hydrophobic saliva, and it keeps the rest of their body as it moves over. The moist part of their body as it moves over that slime trail, it will actually they don't lose a lot of their moisture from their body into it. And you can kind of see this if you go out to where there's a snail trail on a pavement or something, and if you dump water on it, it'll repel the water Now, obviously, with enough force, it'll break it off, but it'll wash it off. But just water in general, it repels it, and it's hydrophobic. Now, and back to the genitals on these guys, because most of them, if not all of them, are hermaphroditic, which means that they all have both reproductive parts. Now, certain species of slugs and snails have harpoons that they stab into each other during this mating process. They stab each other in the head with harpoons. Sometimes they'll call them love darts. But
can slugs self-reproduce then? Like they give birth to themselves? Like some
parthenogenesis?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's look it up and see. I don't know. Let's see. Slug parthenogenesis. It has been observed in one species of slug, the terrestrial pulmonate slug, Deroceras levei. So that at least there are at least some species of slugs that can self-fertilize. But Love Dart sounds like a good name for a band, right? Is there a band called Love Dart?
Maybe you can start one.
Yeah. Do you play any instruments? Could you join? We could start a band together.
I'm just a bad singer.
You're a bad singer? Well, Love Dart needs a bad singer.
Okay.
That's literally the official name for him, though. I don't know if let me see if I can share my screen, but just to prove it, I just want you all to know I'm not just pulling this out of my butt. But look, Love Darts is an official name.
Let me get the screen there.
I kind of want to show you all a picture of them because they're cool looking, but yeah. Love Dart. That's like the article here is actually titled that. And like you can go here down to the citations and it's actually going to be called that in the citations, Love Darts. Isn't that wonderful? And you can sometimes distinguish the species by the shape of their love darts. Tell me that's not fantastic. Like little harpoon heads. They really do look like tiny arrowheads. They're fantastic. And these are used like to pull up next to your partner and you fire them out the side like torpedoes or like a cannon fire out of the side of two ships lining up to battle. And then once you stab your love darts into them, you pull them close, and then you get you stick your penis in their vagina, and they stick their they stick their penis in your vagina, and you do this amazing little maneuver. Now, when it comes to leopard slugs, I love it. They make what's called a penis flower or penis rose. One of my favorite videos of all time is that has Fiona Apple responding to the penis flower that the leopard slugs create. Let me see if I can find a picture of that. It's beautiful. Let me see.
So while you're looking for that, are the gastropods the only mollusks that came to land?
Yeah, there are no land octopuses, no tree octopuses, unfortunately. But the Sasquatch are going to starve because that's what they're supposed to eat. Is tree octopuses. Let me see. I'm trying to find a good image of it, and it doesn't look like I'm trying to get you demonetized. Give me just a second. That one's kind of pretty. Here we go. We're going to watch this real quick.
Looking for a partner, it gives its trail of slime a special taste that advertises the fact.
And then
Another, if it feels the same way, the pair
here they go.
on the branch and start to slide downwards on a rope of mucus.
Look at that. Oh, they're so cool.
Mating right now?
Huh?
They mating?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, people.
Yeah, look how long they hang down. They're like two acrobats. It's like fucking Harley Quinn from the Suicide Squad in her jail cell. You can see. Oh, look right there. You can see the metaphor right there. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Oh, here comes the flower. This part is what makes the flower. Watch. These are their genitals. These are their penises. Watch them. Absolutely fantastic. Here they go. Weaving together. Oh, wow. And it's like so like pearly white and blue. I want to see it in real life. So I'll be on the lookout.
Is there any in your area?
Yeah, we get these are common in my area actually. But I've never been able to catch them doing it. Look at that. That's so fabulous. That's got to be like the most romantic thing animals can do, right? They like fight each other and then they climb high and they both get together and start using on each other until they make a nice slimy string to hang from their mucus. And then they hang down and then they extend their penis flower down and then one of them drops.
So these aren't these aren't like some like the other side of the family tree where these females don't eat the male afterwards, do they?
No, there's no consumption. Not at all. Somebody in the comments said, could you imagine walking face first into one of these while you're hiking? That would be unfortunate. It's actually I think it's beautiful, but to each their own. Each their own. You don't have to love the penis flower, but I sure do. All right. Do we have I think we on the slideshow, were we done?
I don't know. I will bring it back up.
Okay. I don't know if we were done or not. We went through all these. Ghost slugs. So cool. And here's the pneumostome again. And yeah, I think that's it. I just got some pictures of them eating and being cute. They're actually animated, but it looks like that animation doesn't play on here.
Yeah.
But I can make it play on here by doing this. There we go. Nom, nom, nom.
Sure, that's from the best.
There you go. They're munching. Some of them in fast forward. They like to eat all sorts of vegetables, and they are a pest species. There are a few different methods that people use to keep them out of their gardens. I will tell you one thing: salt is not a good method to keep gastropods out of your garden. It's just not. It's bad for your garden.
So are gastropods mainly herbivorous and not
Yeah, they're mostly herbivorous. I mean, some of them will be opportunistic and eat other animal detritus too, decayed animal parts and stuff. But for the most part, they're herbivorous. They have a diet very similar to like a millipede or a isopod. They eat a lot of they like dark, damp places and like the kind of food you find in dark, damp places. Their predators are, of course, birds. And birds like to take snails up and drop them on rocks to break open their shells. And sometimes if you leave a rock or a bottle or something in the wilderness, you'll find a pile of snail shells next to it that just where they come to crack the shells open on it. So they'll snap them against smash them against glass, smash them against stone in order to get to the snail inside, the snail meat. But other animals, like we discussed earlier, like with the hermit crabs and stuff, they like to use their shells as their hides, carry them on their back. So snails offer a little protective fortresses they leave behind when they die that other animals can use to live in or hide in. Snails and slugs, like worms, are all important for aerating the soil. And they're usually beneficial to native plants, right? Having slugs and snails in the environment is beneficial for native plants. It's when you start planting non-native stuff that you really have to worry about getting too much hassle from the local gastropods. Now,
so you're saying hermit crabs rat out the slugs and rat out snails to the birds so they can still get their homes after they die?
Yeah. Well, no, because they wouldn't want the smashed home. Yeah, so no, they wouldn't. But you know those hermit crabs that feed on albatrosses? Coconut crabs are huge, and they feed on like the biggest thing I've ever heard of them feeding on is an albatross, which is a bird with like a 12-foot wingspan. So coconut crabs, which by extension hermit crabs, are nothing to mess with. Now, when it comes to giants, gastropods have their giants too. And yeah, let me see. Let's pull this up. Let's look at this. Okay, so we're going to be looking at just a little bit of information about an invasive giant African snail. Now, these guys, you've probably seen these before because they get like the size of a freaking cat. They're absolutely huge. It's the African giant land snail, ALS is what they're often called. But they're absolutely huge and absolutely invasive in taking over where else but Florida Department of Agriculture. The giant African land snail, GALS, is one of the most invasive pests on the planet, causing agricultural and environmental damage wherever it is found. The snail was twice established in southeastern Florida and was successfully eradicated both times. On June 21st, 2022, the FDACS DPI received a report of a possible population of the snails in Newport Richey, Paso County. On June 23rd, a survey of the property confirmed the presence of a white form of giant African land snail, which is popular in the pet trade in other countries. This snail is a federally prohibited organism and cannot be legally sold or possessed in the U.S. So I will have to go to Mexico to get my giant land snail. But the main reason I wanted to come here is because they got this video of one, or maybe I opened it up here. Yeah. So let me pop it over here.
So, but they're perfectly legal in Africa, right?
Yeah, legal in Africa. Well, Africa has giant millipedes too. They're freaking long, huge. But let's look how big these boys are.
At quite literally a snail's pace, they certainly don't look menacing. But for the Florida Department of Agriculture, this is a horror movie. The public service within the size of a baseball. In the 20 months since they were discovered in Miami, more than 120,000 have been found and destroyed.
We didn't bring them over, did you?
Teams of snail hunters armed with rakes.
No, they're not mine.
Backyard,
I've never even been to Africa.
Fences, behind sheds, in the leaves. It doesn't take long before they find one.
There they are.
Really, could you get the specimen back from my pocket?
The problem with these things, they love just about anything that grows in Florida.
These snails will eat 500 different plants, including virtually everything we grow in the state of
Florida. Cases have been reported. The snails also carry a parasite that can cause a form of meningitis, potentially deadly to humans. Back in the 1960s, it took 10 years and $1 million to eradicate an infestation of these snails brought in from Hawaii. How they got here this time?
Ginormous.
But this invasive species presents problems similar to the Burmese python. No enemies.
Our preferred method of control is biological, finding a natural predator. These snails have no natural predator other than us.
So it comes down to snail search parties. All 7 of these snails were found in this backyard in about 10 minutes' time. And one of the reasons they're such a destructive species is because these snails, and all of them are adults, can lay about 1,200 eggs on average.
Now that's a lot of eggs, right? Now when they're small, they're hard to distinguish from native snails, right? It's when they start to get big, they develop that point on the side of their shell that you know that you've got a problem. So, but these guys get absolutely
by then they might have laid a million more eggs.
Yeah, by the time you find them, they may have laid a million more eggs. Exactly. Yeah, and these ones that they're showing in this backyard here don't even do it justice for how big these guys can get. I've seen, yeah, like you said, the size of a baseball. Yeah, easily the size of a baseball, and heavy too. They're absolutely massive. You know.
So, what are its native predators over in their home country?
So in Africa, yeah, there's several birds that eat them. There's species of burrowing snakes that eat them. There are other biological organisms that take them out too, that have like diseases that spread through the community. So natural parasites that they don't have to deal with in Florida. Other arthropods as well, like centipedes and insects. There's beetles that specialize in hunting the local gastropods almost in every environment. So, yeah.
But here they have free reign.
Pretty much free reign, yeah. I mean, what are we going to do? We have to go out there and hand collect them in order to stop them.
It's too bad. I gotta say, it's too bad the other invasive species, the pythons, don't eat them for us. Two birds with one stone.
And they didn't bring up cane toads, but cane toads are just about the worst invasive species I can think of. But I guess that's more of an Australia problem. Speaking of Australia, though, I got one more thing I wanted to bring up here, if that's all right.
Sure.
And we're going to talk about one of my favorite animals. It's the giant pink slug of Mount Caputar, right? Now, look at this thing. Does it not look like a giant sentient tongue?
Yes.
Sentient tongue. A park ranger at Mount Caputar in National Park in northern southwest Wales, or northern New South Wales. Goodness gracious. Again, like I said, I'm going to be tripping over my tongue all day today. I apologize. Has snapped incredible photos of a hot pink slug that grows to an enormous 20 centimeters in length. Ranger Michael Murphy says on mornings after rain, you can sometimes see hundreds making their way back down the trees after a night foraging on lichen and moss. These festively colored slugs, Tribonophorus graphi, I think that's graphi, yeah, are relations to the equally quirky red triangle slug which is also found on Mount Caputar. They are among a number of unique species marooned 150 meters above sea level on an extinct volcano near the township of Narrabri. The slug's huge size is a family trait, says Michael, but he also puts it down to the abundance of food and lack of predation in their wet 10 square kilometer patch of habitat. They only live on this one mountaintop. Only discovered a few years ago, the slug has maintained a low profile due to their remote location, Michael says. At their largest, they reach roughly the length of a paperback book in the width of 4 to 6 centimeters. It's hope, says Michael, that with their charismatic color and size, these slugs could be a bright new figurehead for many more dowdy threatened invertebrates. There are more land snails listed as threatened, endangered, or extinct by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature than birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and fish put together, says Michael, a trained biologist whose specialty is land snails. So we have more threatened endemic snails and slug species of this group than all the birds, mammals, reptiles, amphibians, and fish put together, and all the tetrapods that are endangered put together. But the problem is most of them are tiny and unattractive to people, so they don't get a lot of attention. So the idea of having something bright pink like this to be the flagship is a wonderful idea. Many days you might see nothing in the pink slug habitat, he says, but on others the forest will be alive with invertebrates. Their damp canopied patch, which is also home to the Caputar hairy snail and the Caputar cannibal snail and a dozen other important species, is on its way to becoming Australia's first land snail habitat to be declared as an endangered ecological community. It's something that should bring some more attention to the impact of the climate change on the mountain's invertebrates, says Michael. And why pink, you may ask? There is one idea that the pink color camouflages them against the color of fallen snow gum leaves on the forest floor, said Michael. But then again, they spend a lot of time way up in the canopy, nowhere near the floor. So it might be that if you're a giant slug way up in an isolated mountaintop, you can be whatever color you like. So they chose to be hot pink. Anyway, yeah.
So where are these slugs at again?
Mount Caputar in Australia. It's in eastern Australia, northeastern, I believe. But it's isolated population up on a mountaintop. There's a lot of invertebrates that are like this. When I talked to the entomologist from SciBugs, we talked about that down in for instance, in Ecuador, each mountain has its own endemic beetles and slugs and worms, and they all have their own species because they get isolated in a vertical habitat, right? Like around a certain height between certain elevations where the cloud forest is just right for them, or where there's just enough of it for this species to thrive here. And when we deal with climate change, when we talk about climate change, that's a big piece of it, is that these organisms, when the climate shifts and it raises or lowers that cloud forest, or makes the cloud forest disappear altogether, or anything that alters that environment, that species is done. Unless they can migrate and the habitat moves up or down. If the habitat disappears, they're done. If there's no more cloud forest for instance, these giant slugs or any other species of slug or beetle that's endemic to a certain elevation, once they're gone, they're gone. There's no bringing them back. And there's no bringing back their habitat once the environment changes. And some of these environments have been the same for tens of thousands of years, and it's just now getting disrupted. We're just now causing it's mostly the warming up that's causing the cloud forest to disappear, because basically rises above the mountaintops and blows away. No more cloud forest, right?
Go us.
Yeah, humans suck.
Now you mentioned earlier that slugs are good for native plants, but not non-native plants.
So native plants are going to have a better survival capabilities against the indigenous slugs than imported plants will, because imported plants they didn't evolve alongside them to develop the proper. Usually, it's a chemical repellent for slugs or for other pest species, because slugs aren't alone. Lots of animals will eat your fruits and vegetables, but in areas where the organisms are native, the plants have evolved alongside of them and evolved a certain level of defense to be able to survive and keep reproducing alongside of them. Now, the problem with that is that sometimes that adaptation is encouraging the animals to come along and eat the fruit, because it wants to disperse its seeds. So it does best to let the slugs eat the strawberries. But strawberries are red because monkeys want to pick them. And you're a monkey and I'm a monkey, and we should both want to pick strawberries. So us and slugs, we have the same desire.
So kind of like how the Asian bees can get rid of Asian hornets, but our bees can't get rid of the Asian can't kill the Asian hornets.
Precisely, yeah, because they have a defense against their attacks, whereas like North American bees, they can't do the mobbing attack like the Japanese honeybees do. Now, honeybees in general are just invasive to North America, right? So they don't belong here at all. But they're just like the African giant snails. So a lot of people don't think about that when they see the honeybees bobbing around in their gardens and stuff. That is free-range, feral livestock. It's not they aren't the native bees save the bees. We need to save the bees. These aren't. That's like saying when you say the birds, so let's save the chickens, right? People keeping track of how many chickens there are on farms around the country, and saying, "Oh, birds are doing fine because of that." No, bees are native livestock. I don't know how I got. You see, get me off talking about bees. I'm gonna go off. I'll warn you. Get me talking about bees.
Well, I guess I gotta bring it up one more time. Like, not only do we have two invasive species in here, we have the European and the African bees invasive species.
Well, so you're talking about the Africanized honeybees, because that was more in South America. They did move north into Mexico, but I think by the time that they got to Texas, that they had been interbred so much with the native bee populations that they weren't nearly as hostile as they were when they were first.
So now they're a third species, a mixed species. Then
now there's a hybrid species. Well, that's not really. I mean, calling it a species, I don't know. There used to be people that proposed that the red wolf was a hybrid species between coyotes and wolves, but it's really not. But there's no red wolf population left that doesn't have some percent of coyote DNA, unfortunately.
Is there already a hybrid species of slugs then? Going back on topic.
Yeah, I'm sure there's lots of hybrid species of slugs. Let's see, hybrid slugs. Yeah, super hybrid slugs are invading Britain was a headline in 2017. So apparently hybrid slugs are quite a problem. I had to cough, sorry.
Okay.
That's from the Daily Mail, though. Can you really trust what the Daily Mail says?
Probably not.
Headline numbers alone aren't necessarily something to get in a lather over. A typical garden can contain several thousand slugs, and the 500 billion figure is derived from estimates of the maximum number per area. So it's going to be 5 billion slugs.
You mentioned that we have invasive species over here. Have any of our Native American species become invasive in other places?
So yeah, the species we're talking about right now is from the New World. Well, I don't know if it's from North America or South America, but yeah, it was delivered in Aldi's. Apparently, in an Aldi's lettuce bag is how it got over there. Last year, there were around 420 billion slugs born in Britain, but this year there will be more than 500 billion. That's crazy.
We have a comment for you.
Okay. My favorite slug is the banana slug. Yeah, banana slugs get huge too. They get absolutely massive. And can be, I think, aren't banana slugs poisonous though? I think they're poisonous. Maybe not.
So do banana slugs and strawberry slugs eat strawberries and bananas, or that this the names?
The banana slug looks like a banana. It's bright yellow.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me show you a picture of a banana slug. Here's a banana slug. There you go. That's what one looks like. You kind of see where they get their name from. No, that's not a tail. That's a dandelion. Dandelion piece. Zoom out, dang it. Keeps wanting to zoom in. Guess we'll zoom in on the head. Have a good look at it. Now that's a good looking slug, don't you think? Look at that. Nice long antenna. Nice long tentacles.
So where is this native?
Athletic foot.
Where is this native at?
Banana slugs are they have a cosmopolitan range, don't they? I know we have them in North America, but yeah, the Pacific banana slug, there's a few species. So you got California, Oregon. So it looks like they're mostly in the Pacific regions of North America. But they get absolutely massive, as you can see. And yeah. And you got a good look at the foot in that last picture we looked at, but yeah, here's this foot fringe is what waves. And when you look, when we zoom in on this guy, you can see all the tiny little muscles that pull that foot along. So pull the foot along in a tiny little wave. I don't know if banana slugs are poisonous or not. I have never eaten a slug. Plenty of escargot have been consumed by me, but not a slug. I like how they are all different colors. Yeah, there's some bright, beautiful snails out there. And slugs.
Are slugs bright colors because they're poisonous like other animals, or they probably for a different reason?
Like aposematic coloration. Well, some of them are. Yeah. Not banana slugs, though. I checked and they are not poisonous. So not suggesting that you go eat them, though. I don't think they'd be very appetizing. But
I don't think they taste like bananas.
Yeah, I don't think they're banana flavored. They're not banana flavored. Here they are doing their mating thing, which I've actually seen slugs do this, where they hook together in a little spiral and sit there and slither back and forth in a spiral. I've just never seen them get up and hang and do the flower thing. Assume slugs and snails are closely related. Yeah, they are closely related. Land snails and land slugs are closer related to each other than they are to sea slugs, though. And land slugs have all slugs have shell relative ancestry, but sea slugs have different land ancestry than land slugs do. Land slugs' ancestors are land snails, and you can see that patch on their back. That's where their shell would have been if they were a snail. But they've lost their shell long ago to fill a different ecological niche where they can fit into tighter spaces than a regular shelled snail would be able to. Now, sea slugs have their own evolution where they diverged from sea snails a long time ago. Of course, land snails evolved from sea snails too, so you got to keep that in mind.
Okay, so sea snails are originally from the sea. They didn't come back to the sea. They were there to begin with. They didn't go land back again.
Snails, gastropods in general, all come from the ocean. And snails came onto land as snails, and then slugs evolved from those snails that came onto land. But snails in the ocean also evolved and lost their shells to become sea hares and nudibranchs and things like that. And sea hares, if you think the African giant snails are huge, sea hares are, I think they get like 40 pounds. They get huge.
Yeah, I think I might be wrong, but I think I saw I seen videos of them eating fish.
Yeah, they're ginormous, and then nudibranchs swim like they look like fish swimming or something. They look more like octopuses and cuttlefish than they do land snails. They got bright colors and they're rippling, and and obviously they can handle the salt water.
So, do you know when the slugs speciated away from the snails?
Do I know when they speciated? That we had. Let me see. So the speciation, the divergence. See, that's going to be a double pronged question, because there's going to be the evolution of sea slugs from sea snails, and then there's going to be the evolution of land snails from land snails,
and then obviously the speciation of land snails from sea snails too.
Yeah. So do they have an evolution section here? Because some of the taxonomy and gastropods in general is not really well resolved.
Well, get on that then.
Yeah, I'm going to be the one to resolve it. Let's see. So these are our our air breathing snails. Let's see. Does it tell us when they evolved or diverged? No, it doesn't. So yeah, I'm not sure at all when they evolved or diverged. I wish I had more information on them, but I did have some information on a very niche portion of.
If anybody out there knows, say it in the comments below.
Yeah, well, if I've said anything wrong, let me know too, because I'm not a snail expert or a slug expert. I focus mostly on hymenopterans.
So I'm assuming here, either natural or sexual selection made the slugs need to lose their shell to become shellless little movers.
Yeah, and a lot of gastropods do lose their shells. Gastropods all have shelled ancestors that were a lot like a clam or a oyster. You know, they had shells like that, and then you see that when you open up a clam or oyster now, like there's the organism inside that reaches around and has little eyes and stuff. That's the same thing. It's a relative to snails and to octopuses and all their kin too. Yeah. And cephalopods do have shells as well. The only ones that so octopuses lost their shell completely. The only hard parts they have left is their beak. Like every other species of cephalopod still has a shell in some capacity. Whether it's like a cuttle bone of a cuttlefish that's the remain of its shell, or the I don't remember what the thing's called inside a squid, but it's like it's dagger shaped thing inside of a squid. But
not like those big ones that used to live for a few 100 million years ago. The big giant shells. They are 20 feet long.
Giant 20-foot long snails?
Well, I meant squids.
Oh. Well, there's giant squids now.
Well, true.
Yeah, we have there's giant squids and colossal squid, giant squid. Now there are a few shelled cephalopods that existed in the past that were absolutely monstrous. There were ammonites and such that had really long spiraled pointed shells that were 30 feet long. So they've been dominant before, and that was in the more like an early Devonian. They really rocked the world back then. But
so
unfortunately,
do you know when the snails came on land?
Well, it would have been that's another kind of gray area, because there would have been snails for millions or even hundreds of millions of years that could come on land but return back to the sea for breeding purposes and such, or came on to land during the night to feed and return to the water during the day. So it would have been in the early Carboniferous.
Okay.
That we would have really saw diversification among gastropods on land, and that would be snails and slugs by that point in time. I don't know exactly when they diverged, but it would have been during that period in time, and they would have been they would have their free reign for quite a while, only competing with arthropods.
Yeah, I was wondering. I know the arthropods got the land before we did. I don't know if the gastropods did too,
Yeah, it was that would have been around the same time. It would have because they couldn't move on to land until there was a suitable food supply on land that they could consume. So, in order to become terrestrial, they had to wait till there were terrestrial plants first. So,
but they beat us too.
Oh yeah, they beat us too. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Protostomia was doing all kinds of wild stuff before we even crawled out of the water at all. Before we even had bones, they were crawling around on land eating all the veg.
You win again. You win again, Protostomes. You win again.
Yeah. Protostomes, there's just no competing.
But there is no is there any flying gastropods?
No. Well, so when it comes to mollusks, there are no really flying mollusks in the same way there's no real like flying ray fin fish. But there's flying fish that can jump out of the water and glide for. There are squids that can do that. There are flying squids that jump out of the water like flying fish do. So, yeah. But the earliest we see gastropods kind of show up in the record, they go way, way back to the Cambrian, right? So gastropods have been around pretty much as long as there's been animal life. They're some of the earliest macro animal life, and they dominated for so long, especially if you include cephalopods dominating the oceans for hundreds of millions of years, multiple times too, because they came back after the Permian extinction event and dominated those Jurassic seas before the ichthyosaurs took over. So they had a few tens of millions of years they were rocking it in the ocean again before the ichthyosaurs rolled up and decided they were going to start munching on them. So gastropods, though, have never really filled a dominant niche. Unfortunately, they've always been kind of low rung. So the only time that they were dominant is when everything was tiny. And then they were like, hell yeah, but you're talking about the Cambrian oceans when you get to that. Getting into the way, 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 way back when there were very few things with hard bodies, right? Some of the earliest fossils of hard-bodied animals are gastropod shells.
So the land versions are mostly vegetarians, but the sea versions are more on the carnivorous side.
They can be vegetarian too. They'll eat algae and seaweed and stuff like that. There's actually a kind of nudibranch called a leaf sheep that actually incorporates photosynthesis and eats sunlight, and it's green like leaves. It adapted a algae inside of its cell, kind of the way like bacteria, how mitochondria is a bacteria that was trapped inside the cell. Same difference is that they trapped a algae cell that had a basically a little solar panel on it and used it for energy.
So the slug captured the algae, which had captured the
mitochondria.
No, not the mitochondria. The other one, the chloroplast, or the cyanobacteria.
Cyanobacteria, yeah, blue-green algae or whatever, yeah, captured inside the that's where phytocytes find their origin at, you know. So I did do a little quick research while we were discussing that, and it does look like the earliest land snail fossils were from around 350 to 260 million years old. So you're talking Permian more so than Carboniferous, like I suggested earlier.
Of course, that's just the months we discovered it. Might be before.
Yeah, they could go back way further than that, or there could have been coastal or tidal species that lived on land at least part time.
Now you mentioned SpongeBob. Do the sea slugs in real life meow like they do on TV or not?
I've never heard one make a noise at all.
Ah.
Now freshwater snails are descendant from land snails too. Just want to clarify that too.
Okay, so they went from the sea to the land, then the freshwater.
Right. Which, yeah. I mean, we have relatives that did that too. There's mammals that went from we were fish in the ocean, then we came on land, and then they evolved to be otters, or they evolved to be rainbow trout. They evolved to be frogs. They evolved to be northern water snakes. All of those creatures. They were crawling around on the land, eating all the veg.
Yep. So you mentioned birds are a big predator of the land slugs and snails. What are the predators of the sea varieties?
Well, things that like to eat mollusks. So you're going to be looking at you're looking at otters. Sea otters are one thing to eat sea snails. You're looking at ground or like hammerhead sharks, skates and rays, things that scoot along the bottom like that. They'll eat the sea snails. There's fish with specialized beaks for cracking open shells too. So like the what do they call them? They got the big forehead. They got like a the puffer fish. They have that mouth adaptation. They are specially adapted mouth for eating mollusks. Beavers don't eat. Beavers don't live in the ocean either, though. So maybe you're asking them when I said about things that evolve back to the water. Yeah, beavers evolve back to the fresh water. Well, I think that's about all. You about wiped out my knowledge on snails and slugs for tonight, I think. Oh,
yeah. I guess your brain can only hold so much information.
Yeah, but yeah, I'd love to dive into some more stuff, more topics. Definitely.
Maybe
sorry, I didn't.
Sorry. See, maybe we can go into more of the mollusks later.
Yeah, if we can do a mollusk stream.
You want to advertise your two channels?
Yeah, so my channels on my main channel is Hive Sci. That's the channel I produce by myself. It's just a fun channel where I do a Saturday show called Live from the Hive, where I will usually start off by picking apart some kind of ghost or cryptid and cryptic corner, and then we move on to debunking some bad science and get weird with it. And then I'll finish it up with Breeze Bestiary. We learn about an animal, kind of like what we did here tonight. But usually it's only about 15 minutes. I'm not used to having to stretch it over a full hour. So, yeah. And then my other channel is... are you talking about the pus caterpillar? The flannel moth caterpillar? My other channel is the Transpositions. Now, the Transpositions is a transgender news channel by transgender people for transgender people, but everybody's welcome to tune in if you want to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on in our little neck of the woods. We really appreciate anybody who's out there to be an ally and help support us in what we're doing and what we're trying to do anyhow. But yeah, that's on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time or 7 p.m. Central Time. So check that out as well. It's me, Ember Belrad, Stephanie Helms, and Carly Chardonnay Webb. Yeah, it's very venomous hold on. Flannel moth caterpillar. Let me pull a picture of it up. Flannel moth caterpillar. They do look just like Trump's hair. Here. But do not touch. Like at all. These guys will sting. They're very venomous.
It's like the real
You
one.
will regret it. Do not touch this Trump caterpillar.
This reminds me, if you're a viewer in America, you haven't registered to vote yet, do that now.
Yeah, go register, or else this is going to be for all of us. All of us are going to be subject to the whims of this thing. You don't want that. We don't need that. It's not good for anybody. So get out there and vote on November 6th, unless you've voted before then.
All right.
All right.
Thanks for being on again. And as always, in the future, you can mirror this thing on your show if you want to.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks for having me. Always appreciate coming on and hanging out. And you always do these nice little slides and everything. So, yeah, I'll definitely keep coming back.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, you mentioned your main show, but what times or days are your sub shows on that you break off?
Oh, yeah. So Cryptic Quarters on Friday nights at 8. And then we get weird with it Wednesday is what we do there. So, that's where my shows are.
Say your catchphrase.
All right. Please remember to be kind and take care. And we'll see you next time.
As I always say, never stop learning. Enjoy the randomness. I'll see you whenever I decide my next topic. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.